But let's reflect, shall we, on the Champions League in particular, because there's been a lot of praise, hasn't there, for Pep Guardiola, for Thomas Tuchel and what they have achieved so far with those sides reaching now this Champions League final, which we still don't quite know where that's going to be staged. No. Could be Istanbul, but the way it's looking, it might be moved, and that's a debate for another time perhaps. But what about PSG? What did you make of them? Were you really disappointed by the side that last year reached the final?
Well, first and foremost, Man City were clearly the far better team over the two legs. It was quite interesting. I read, the L'Equipe in midweek, and there was some criticism aimed at Poch, and it did make me think about the Chelsea game when they were challenging for the title with Poch, and they lost it completely. Tottenham at that time at Stamford Bridge, and they ended up obviously dropping points. A bit of a fracas. I think Danny Rose was involved in one. Look, there were some common themes, Nat, in this game. One thing that I didn't get over the two legs is that Poch fielded team players who had injuries. It was quite clear. Mbappe wasn't fit in the first leg. Mbappe had suffered an injury against Metz, shouldn't have played in the first leg, and PSG did the same thing. They gassed in both games. They went after Man City in the first half, and completely gassed in the second, because they had a number of players. Verratti had been out of the team, Marquinhos, likewise. There was a number of players that were carrying injuries that played. They gassed in the first leg. Well, the second leg, what did they do? They started with the same tactic of going straight for the jugular against Man City. Now, I know they've lost the first leg 2-1, so they've got to try and win by 2 goals. But the completely wrong tactic to try and go after City, in my opinion, for the juggler. And it was interesting that I was reading the week and I was thinking this about, when Arsenal went to Liverpool and won 2-0 to clinch the title, the famous Michael Thomas. And I remember thinking, when I'm watching the game in midweek, I'm thinking, they have started this game if they want to knock Man City out on the floor in the first 15 minutes. They're going to gas. What did they do? Gas. He selected a team with a card in it. Well, I'm sorry. I mean, this isn't Poch's problem. Icardi wasn't Poch's player. Obviously, Cavani had left the club before Poch had got there. But you think, they had Cavani. Yeah. Now, Leonardo, the director of football at PSG, has let Cavani go, and they got Icardi in, who is nowhere near on the same level, not even close. And I thought there was lots of issues, similarities by how the PSG capitulated during this tie over 2 legs. And Poch was being criticised for that.
Now, people might be listening and thinking, why are you focusing on PSG? Why not talking about Manchester City? Now, the reason we're not talking about Manchester City specifically is because they've been talked about all week.
Yes.
So we wanted a different take on it, and you did want to talk about the situation with Mauricio Pochettino at PSG. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because you mentioned Mauro Icardi, he really had no impetus. There was nothing to him, really. He didn't offer any threat. And then actually, when you're looking for your bench to make an impact, and you're bringing on Moise Kean and Julian Draxler as your first 2 subs who you think will make an impact, well, surely City's players are just thinking, well, that's nothing.
Well, I think City's players knew that their heads had gone. Like I talked about the Chelsea game, Verratti could have got sent off quite easily. I think Di Maria, obviously, his whole intent was to get sent off, but because he'd lost his, and then Neymar started booting everybody, mistiming tackles. So there's a common theme in that, and I thought it was just interesting of Poch. Lille, by the way, won last night in the French League against Lens, their main rival, 3-0 away. So they're now 4 points clear of PSG with 2 games to go. Obviously, PSG got a game now, they can get back to 1. Now, Poch's time there, and again, he came in January, so he isn't responsible for the first, 3-4 months of the season. But PSG could lose the title, which would be unheard of. That is just unthinkable in French football for where PSG are a club, and where even if they're behind by 6 points, to not bridge that gap.
Well, what's the difference in terms of financial issues?
Oh, it's huge. French football's been. Natalie, I don't know how much you've seen what's happened, but I think it was Metropro, who are a Spanish organisation. They had the TV rights for French football. Right. They basically paid 1/10 of the money to the French clubs. The French clubs are in absolute turmoil over finances because Canal Plus have been asked to come in. They're now trying to share football. There's a real problem in France. PSG can handle all that. So PSG, I mean, if you look at the budgets of the clubs in France compared to PSG, it's laughable.
So how are Lille doing so well in the league?
My mate.
Go on.
My mate is a manager.
Oh, go on.
No.
I'll pick the name up from the floor.
Christophe Galtier was a player I was with at Marseille. But it's not really... he's now the Lille manager, and he's done really, really well. But it's not really about that. It's about PSG, and is Poch even safe at PSG?
Well, this is it, because if he doesn't win
I always said
trophy,
he'll come back to Tottenham. when he first got a job.
This is what I want to ask you, because if he doesn't win a trophy this season with... I know he's won the French Super Cup, but that's not deemed...
He's still got the Coupe de France. Coupe de France to win, yeah.
He's won the French Super Cup, but that's not deemed a major trophy in France. If he doesn't win a major trophy, he'll become the first PSG coach to have not won a major since 2012. So it's been quite a while since PSG won't have been celebrating a big cup win, or a big title win, shall we say. Do you think they could they sack him?
Yes.
Really?
The PSG manager.
Even though he's not been in the job for that long.
Well, he's been there since January, but they've lost 7 games in that time. Okay, 2 against Man City, 1 against Bayern Munich, because they lost the home game in the second leg, because they won 3-2 in Bayern and lost 1-0 at home, didn't they, in the round before in the Champions League. But he could easily lose his job, because he was brought in to do what Thomas Tuchel was brought in to do, to get Chelsea into the, still in the Champions League.
Surely he deserves a transfer window of some sort, a proper summer to rebuild.
Well, not really, Nat. Not PSG. Well, their squad is so superior to any squad in France.
The squad is. Then they've got great players. And it's perhaps lazy to use this term, because you hear it many times, but they've got a squad of individuals, but have they got a team?
Yeah.
Because from what you saw in this Champions League semi-final, they weren't playing like a team.
Well, I think I think Poch selected the team, and I thought they gassed in both games. Mm-hmm. Now, that is selecting players that weren't fit. Now, you can do that for 20 minutes, half hour, but if you're going into games and starting players, and they're clearly not... Icardi was never fit. Never fit, even close to. Why would you name Mbappe on the bench when you're losing a game and he isn't even going to come on? Is he there just because it puts the fear in Man City? No chance. Man City deserved quite comfortably over the 2 legs. They were a better team.
And just really, really briefly, because you did mention it, and I'm sure Spurs fans will be like, what? You think he could go back to Tottenham? Could he go back this summer?
I've always said he'll be back. When he lost his job first time round, I've always said he will be back at Spurs. I think there is an unfinished project that was still there for him, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up back there because of circumstances. What's happened last year, Ryan Mason's done really, really well in his time as
as early as this summer he could return. If things don't go well at PSG,
I think he could easily look. If they don't win the league, Nat, and they've been knocked out in the manner 4-1 over 2 legs, PSG are very capable of saying they do what Abramovich and Chelsea do. You think they're not going to do it. It seems a ridiculous decision. Then they do it. There have been other managers at PSG that have won things that have been sacked. So don't be surprised if Poch gets the sack at PSG, especially if Lille go on and win the league. That is... Lille winning the league is like, without being too disrespectful for a team, it's like it's worse than, say, Leicester. It's a team way lower. Lille is the second biggest team in its area. Lens are a far bigger club than Lille, in the northeast of France.
So it's
like
shock.
Sunderland winning win the league over Man City.